is connecting. And all right, I see it on the it's not on the Facebook page, but it's showing on Facebook, so like in my little corner.
All right, let's see if I can get on to turn on lenses.
Yeah, so I'll introduce myself first. I'll like welcome everyone. I'll introduce myself. Then Erica, you introduce yourself, and then Jonathan, you introduce yourself.
Okay.
So, yay.
Will you tell me when you see it so I can share it?
Yes.
Should I have it open on my thing at all, or no?
Huh?
Nothing. I'm just.
Yeah, well, so if you have Facebook open, if you go to that URL I just sent, the /live or whatever, I mean, if you're able to, you can share it real quick to your page. All right, I'm going to go live now because it's 1 minute.
Are you guys so excited?
Yeah. Are you so excited?
So excited. Are you excited?
I am peeing my pants right now.
Yes. Alrighty, guys.
That would be true if I was wearing pants.
Gross, Jonathan. Gross. And we're live. The amount of faces I see.
Look at this.
Yeah. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. We logged on a minute early to make sure we didn't screw anything up. So if we screwed up, please let us know in the comments or text us if you have our numbers. So.
If you have our number.
Ken, that means you.
Yep, Ken and Stacy.
I'm just giving my number out live right now to everybody. Just blow my phone up all night. I got nothing going on.
Alrighty. We got 16 people so far. Let's give it another minute or two and let people join in. All right.
Perfect. There we go. All right. Shared and good.
It's just water, I promise.
Debatable.
Debatable.
Alrighty. 1 more minute and we'll go. Hi, everybody. Paula says hi. Lisa says hi. Hello,
hey, guys.
Hello.
What's up, Hernan? Hey, Stacy. Alrighty, it's 6:01. Let's get started. Guys, people can always tune in as they wish. So, first and foremost, to everyone and anyone watching, thank you so much for joining us. We're hoping to bring you guys a few videos throughout the rest of the month where we talk to our image masters and ambassadors and just kind of keep you guys inspired and excited and maybe help cure the boredom that we're all experiencing stuck in our homes where we might not be, the most excited to make photos. So my name is Sara. I am a sales representative for Tamron. I'm based in Texas. So if you are ever in, going to camera stores in Texas or Oklahoma, Arkansas, etc., there's a good chance we've met. This is my colleague, Erica.
Hi, guys. I am a national tech rep with Tamron, and I'm national. I don't have a specific region that I stick to. I'm a little bit of everywhere. Unfortunately, right now I can't do that, obviously, but I'm sure I'll be catching you all back on the road pretty soon. And then, of course, we have our Jonathan.
Our Jonathan.
Our Jonathan.
Yeah, he's our Jonathan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Thorpe. I'm a Washington, D.C. based commercial and editorial advertising photographer. Been a Tamron image master now for I think 6 or 7 years. Specialize in a lot of environmental portraits, a lot of lights, a lot of production value, and things like that.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
You're pretty great. So, so I guess we'll kind of get right into it. So now that the world is kind of, upside down slightly, how are you feeling? What's new with you? What's a day look like in the life of Jonathan Thorpe at this point?
It's a lot of the four walls of my house right now. It's crazy. You know, I don't really know what to really make of all of it just yet. It's honestly, it's still pretty new, and every day is kind of like just figuring out the new normal, which is going to be even the more new normal, whatever, after all this is over with. And being a photographer right now, or any type of, I think, working creative, is difficult. You know, it's a dicey time, and you just gotta kind of keep your head up and focus on, you know, learning new things and just trying to perfect your craft even that much more while you have the time to do so.
That's true. That's very true. Do you have
Absolutely.
anything that you've kind of like picked up along the way as far as like different webinars that you've been watching or different things that you've tried to learn? Like I know you put together your really great setup for us for this interview, with gear and lights
Showing us up.
and all that.
Yeah,
So yeah, right. Had to
I,
show us up.
I learned how to live stream real quick because it just this is gonna be the future, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just figuring out new things to do to get your message out as a creative, and at least for the foreseeable future, the live stream thing seems like that's what it's going to be. So yeah, I did a lot of research on how to hook up like a legitimate camera and run it through and get lights and all that stuff and set this up to look a little too good, I think. You can see the pores a little too evilly on this, but yeah, so the whole live stream thing has been cool, and I've been, you know, doing my own little webinar things and teaching my own little classes here and there online, and that's been really fulfilling and really cool to work with other photographers. And you know, like I said, we have time right now, and there's no real sense of urgency other than just stay at home.
Right.
And it's allowing me to look over my work again and reevaluate the photos that I have on my portfolio, as well as help other photographers with their portfolios and things like that.
That's awesome. No, that's a good point, actually. Now that we have, you know, we complain a lot of times that we don't have time to do stuff, that we don't have time to, you know, learn a new piece to this puzzle that we're all trying to create. So we might as well, if we do have the time, if we're healthy and happy, we might as well take advantage of the time that we have to
Absolutely.
do it. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
So, Sarah, did you want to jump into some of his photos and things, or do you want to
Yeah,
go into his past? Yeah.
totally. So I know some of you viewing may be familiar with Jonathan's work, but for those that are not, it'd be awesome. I think I gave you presenter capabilities on this. So if you want to bring up your photos and kind of talk about the type of photography you do and what inspires you, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, so I'll do a screen share of my site, and I'll kind of go through, I don't know, 10 or 15 shots pretty quick here, and it'll kind of give you a good idea of the type of work that I do. Let's see what we got here. So I added some new portraits today to my site that I've shot in the past, and just wanted to kind of, you know, revamp what I had on here already. Um, this is a portrait of a guy I know named David. He's a motorcycle builder. I'm pretty active in the motorcycle community and shooting and things like that. I shoot within the motorcycle community. I ride as well. I build motorcycles as well. So it's just a part of my life. And when I get to work with other motorcycle builders, it's kind of bringing those two passions of mine together to create some pretty cool shots. So we shot this just in his home garage where he builds out of. Pretty simple portrait, two lights. Um, we used a little bit of this stuff called fog spray that I'm obsessed with. That I'm, it's
Got some
just
of that right
inches.
now, don't you?
There we go. And it creates a.
I don't get to play.
Erica, we need to get you a can, clearly.
I know. Somebody
Yeah, you
showed
got
me
to get
this.
some. I'll send you. I have like a pallet of this stuff at my house. I'll send you a bunch.
Perfect. Spot on. Do I get to pick like a different color? Do they
No,
have
it's
different
just
colors and such? Or is it just spray?
spray.
Perfect.
You
Done.
gotta gel it with lights, man.
All right.
Um,
Okay. I'm gonna be the new Jonathan Thorpe.
you look at the top corner, you can see like a hazy orange light. That's from the fog spray and a gelled flash behind his head. And whoops. Next portrait is him actually working on a bike. We did the same idea. A lot of that fog spray to fill up his garage kind of brings out this kind of moody atmosphere in the whole in the garage. and just kind of lends itself to this old, warm, kind of late in the day feeling. And it just creates an overall mood and feeling. That's kind of where my portrait work comes from. It's not just the typical, let's take a picture against this wall, whatever. There's always two subjects in my photos, the actual subject and then the environment that that subject is in. And it's important to pay attention to those things and really take into a point of, okay, I know I'm going to photograph this portrait of this person in this space. Let's get him lit the right way. And then let's look at the environment, make sure we have a lot of cool light bouncing off that to kind of play off the beautiful light that we put on our subject. So when I go into these spaces, I'm going into it with a more cinematographer mind of creating a mood and a feeling with my light, and creating something that's kind of a relatable image, but also kind of reinventing that space with my flash and my light and stuff too. Moving on, this is with a parkour athlete. For those of you guys who don't know what parkour is, it's basically from getting from point A to B in the most creative way possible. And it's a tricky thing to shoot because it kind of just looks like, they're jumping around. So when I got together with this guy, I wanted to create a really dynamic looking image. And I found this stair set near my house that has this beautiful leading line down it that shows just how tall that wall is. And we had him just jump from the wall down to the stairs. Another 2 light setup. You can see the light up at the top over the fence hitting his arm right there. And then another light in the front just kind of boomed over my head, lighting him up just to kind of make him pop off that background just a little bit more. We'll move on to a really cool portrait I just shot recently.
I love this
Sarah is very excited
please
about.
include
Their
the car.
favorite.
I love the story behind it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I went to a local auto store to get a part for the bike I'm working on currently. And this car was parked next to me. So I sat in my car and waited for about a half an hour for the owner to come out. And I was like, hey man, can I just take a picture of your car? I didn't want to be rude and just do it without his permission. So he's like, yeah, sure, come on, let's do a picture. So I shot a picture in that parking lot, and then I was like, how much time do you have? Because I have my whole rig in the car with me. He's like, I got all the time you need. So we went around the corner, and I put all my lights on him. We have 3 lights in this shot, 1 to the right to light up the side of his car, 1 boomed over his head, and then 1 behind to kind of light the top of the car. And we took this portrait, and this is right before the shelter in place mandates came into play, all that other stuff. So it was as safe as it could be. We maintained our distance the whole time because I just shot this probably about 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. But it's taking a normal everyday person and putting this beautiful light on them and creating a mood and a feeling. And you can create some just really, really cool dynamic portraits when you just have that kind of lighting placement in mind first. And this is the second portrait of him in the car, just again in that same parking lot. Lucked out on the clouds that day. Shot this with high-speed sync to really bring out those textures and those clouds, and it just became a really cool, dynamic portrait. We'll do a couple more.
That's awesome. I love that you spent time with him. That's really cool. I didn't know that part of the story.
We hung out for about an hour that day, and I promised him, for him helping me out. If him and his girlfriend ever wanted photos, I was like, yeah, I'll take you guys portraits whenever you want, because he lives around the corner from me. So, and when we're at the time, we were supposed to be kind of maintaining our distance from people. There was no real set rules yet, but I turned it into, not a friend, but I made a new relationship that day with somebody, and
absolutely
got a cool picture out of it. He was really stoked on it. He was blown away, and that's kind of what the cool thing about being a portrait photographer is. You get to show people how they look in a different type of light, and it's a really neat feeling. It really can be.
I'm sure he never thought either himself or his car would look like that. So
no, he looks like a straight rock star.
That's super cool.
This is Rhett and Link. There are some comedians big on YouTube. One of the biggest YouTube channels on the site. They do a show every morning called Good Mythical Morning. They've been around now. I think they're on their 10th season of that show, and us 3 had connected years ago before they got very big yet. They were still in North Carolina, and we've been trying to do a shoot together for a very, very long time. And then they ended up moving to LA, got really busy. And when they were on tour, they were coming through my town. They hit me up, and we finally got our shoot together. This is shot in the auditorium that they were performing in that night. wanted to make it look kind of like a movie theater situation. We put 2 lights on either side to kind of light the side of their faces, and then this big light in the background with the movie theater light, quote unquote, or the projector light is actually one of my flashes coming into the camera, and just gives that whole like kind of old movie theater feel to the whole thing. Similar shot. That's the theater behind them that we just photographed in. Just pretty clean, normal, whatever you want to call it, portrait of just 2 guys that I've been friends with for a long time now. Let's move on to something a little bit more dynamic. So I shot this with the brand new 35 1.4 right when it came out. This is the first portrait I took with it, the Tamron 35 1.4. I've been wanting to shoot in this sunflower field for a really, really long time. Could never really figure out what I wanted to shoot, or better yet, even how to shoot it, whatever. I figured this would be a good opportunity to use that lens. They tend to use that kind of focal length a lot. So I got together with a makeup artist, wardrobe stylist, hair model, whatever. Put this whole shoot together. Shot it late in the day. Real simple light. We have one light just on her face lighting up. Then we're relying on the sun coming over her shoulder to kind of give us a nice rim light on her hair. Shot this in high-speed sync, so we get a really cool kind of bluish, not blue, but like a dark blue sky behind her. And it turns out to be a really kind of just interesting, dynamic portrait. Let's do one more, because I'm tired of talking about myself here for a little bit.
That's how we're here, though.
What's
I
that?
know, right? We are kind of talking about
That's why
you.
we're here.
You're a little bit important.
I know, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to look at my photos. I'm so good. Ugh. This is a portrait taken in the Washington, D.C. National Cathedral up in the bell tower. It's very kind of limited access to this location. And this was for Modern Luxury magazine. I'm not sure why they picked this location, but it turned out to be really cool, and it's a really industrial, kind of interesting feeling. A couple different lights in this. We have a light up here, just to his right, lighting him up, and then we have another rim light hitting just out of frame on his shoulder. And then what I did was I took my handy dandy fog spray and sprayed it on this back light right here to make sure that we didn't lose that. When you're taking environmental shots and there's things in the shot that can emit light, you want to make sure you're not forgetting about those or blowing them out or shooting at an exposure that's going to kill their ambient light in the shot. So for this, I wanted to make sure we saw that, because I knew there was going to be a hint of light on him anyways. And I wanted to kind of make it look like this light over here was actually lighting his shoulder. So I put a little bit of that spray on it just to make sure it kind of glowed in the shot. And that's the resulting portrait. And just to see how large those bells are, this is him next to the bell and then the top of the cathedral that rings at the church.
Wow.
This is only a 2-light setup, one light behind him straight to camera, and then one light just to his left, my right, to light him up next to the bells.
That's awesome.
That is
So did you
cool.
get to pick the place inside of the actual bell tower, or they picked like, okay, well, we want a shot here and I want a shot there? Or did you
They just wanted it in the bell tower, and they kind of let me run free with it. And it came out cool. It's a really interesting location. Like, those aren't even the biggest bells. Those bells get way, way, way bigger.
Oh, wow.
And it was just lugging gear up the smallest stair sets you've ever seen. And it was kind of a nightmare, but it turns out to be a really kind of interesting, dynamic, cool portrait. I don't think there's something else.
What lens did you use? Someone in the comments asked what lens you used for those. Do you remember?
That was, go back to it. These were both shot 24 to 70 2.8. Cool. If I'm on a magazine shoot or something where I know I got to be kind of mobile and quick, I usually just default to the 24 to 70. It gives me a nice wide shot, and I can still shoot a nice portrait at the 70 millimeter. That's my safe lens, quote unquote. Because I know in this case it was all about just traveling light, because there was a lot. I brought all my gear up these really tight spiral stair sets up to the top of the tower. So that's like 3 or 4 Pelican cases, C stands, everything. So you got to find like the smallest bits you can, and kind of default on those if possible. I know there was a few shots that we wanted to talk about. Let's go to those.
Well, let's rewind for a second because this is kind of where
Yeah.
you're at currently with your photography, but I'm curious if you can share how you got started or just what your background is, because if I remember correctly, your background is something very different from photography.
It is very different from photography. Should I stop sharing my screen now so you guys can just hear me talk, or should I keep the screen up?
What do the people want? You can just keep the screen up for now. It's good.
Yeah, keep the screen. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a bit we'll switch back.
So yes, I am not a photographer. I mean, I am. Um,
You
I
lie.
started out my. What's that?
You lie.
I mean, I am, but I started out my career in optometry, um, and it's always been kind of strange to transition out of that career field into this one. And the story how I did it is kind of interesting. Um, I got a camera as a present, and about a month later, that camera was a Canon SX10 IS, which is it looks like a DSLR, but it's just like a point and shoot. I remember I used to hold it up to my face and like try to twist the lens like I was zooming it, but I was just using the little thumb thing to go boop 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 to like zoom it in and out. So I wanted to feel like a photographer at the time. um, I got this camera and I go to this hip hop show in Baltimore, take some photos of the artist. I'm like, hey, I think these look cool. I found that guy on MySpace afterwards, which is any way of telling how old I am in this whole situation. Uh, I sent him the photos. I was like, hey, man, I was at your show. I think these photos look great. Let me know what you think. And I didn't hear back. And I didn't kind of expect to hear back, but, I was hoping for some type of positive reinforcement. About a month goes by, and I get a package in the mail, and it's Double XL Magazine, which is this very large hip hop publication. And in it is all my photos from that show, because he had an interview with the magazine and ended up using all my shots. And my name was published in a magazine, in a national magazine, about a month after owning a camera. So that was the decision. That's all the drive I needed to quit my job, and I quit pretty much the next day. Because now I'm a photographer, and now I am a full-time professional photographer after a month or two of owning a camera. So needless to say, panic set in kind of quick, because I don't know anything about photography, and I just happened to randomly get published. So the next step was to find work, and I jumped on Craigslist under the gigs section, and there was a gig there that was looking for photographers to shoot an NCAA lacrosse tournament. And it was this organization that would like sell the pictures of the athletes back to their parents, that kind of thing. So I applied to it and just kind of crossed my fingers and hope I got it. And turns out I got the job. So I show up, and they hand you some big sports camera. I don't know what it was at the time. Set it to just 30 frames a second, just holding down the camera all the time and hoping you're getting a photo out of it. It was $100 a day for 3 days, from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. at night. So working for pennies at this point, but I'm excited. I couldn't be more excited because I'm a working photographer now. So I do the gig, and the last day, we're kind of wrapping up, and a couple of guys approach me like, hey, we need to talk to you about your photos. I'm like, oh God, is everything out of focus? I just screw everything up. Like, what's the deal? And they go, no, did you take this one? They pull out a small, computer printed shot. And it was one of my photos. And I go, oh yeah, I took that. That was from like the first day. And they go, well, we're from Adidas. We saw your images. This one, looks great, and our product is well represented. Would you be interested in licensing this to us? And if so, how much? I don't know. Like I've been a photographer for 2 months. I don't know. So I'm like, yeah, $300. That's how much. That's my licensing rate. And then kind of laugh to each other because that's ridiculous. To work with such a big company, that's never what they're going to pay you. And they asked me like, oh, you must be new, blah, 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 blah. And I go, yeah, I'm brand new to this. And they go, okay, we'll be in touch. And again, I thought I would never, this is just like the rapper situation. I thought I would never hear back from these guys. And then that time I'm sitting there shooting, children's birthday parties 8 hours for $30 just to do anything, like any gig. I was doing pet portraits. I think I shot purses for a little while. I was doing just anything I could possibly find. And then sure enough, I hear back from Adidas and they gave me like $20,000 for the photo. And it became a banner in every Dick's Sporting Goods around the country for about a year.
That's incredible. Huh.
Yeah, it's kind of a silly story. And it's a lot of luck. Honestly, I can right place, right time really has a lot to do with this career. But it's important to know when to make those decisions and when to know, like, hey, I should probably quit my job and be a photographer now. And then that gave me the money to kind of live off of for a little while and perfect my craft a little bit more. And once you work with a bigger company like that, it's a little easier to kind of get your foot in the door with some of the other big companies. My next gig was for Red Bull. From there, I went to, I think it was H&M, then BMW, and some other big companies and magazines and things like that. So it's a very serendipitous situation to kind of fall into this career. And I didn't even realize that photography, was a career or it was a sustainable career at that point. But that was 11 years ago and I haven't had to get a job since. So I think it worked out. I'm very happy and lucky to be doing what I do for a living.
Very cool.
That's my story.
It's crazy how stuff works out, but clearly you have the talent, so.
I do now. I was garbage for a long time.
Weren't we all?
Real bad.
Weren't we all?
Yeah, I mean, I go back at photos from 10 years ago. I'm like, oh my God,
like, why did I do that?
Is horrible.
I was looking through like old hard drives today and I found the very first portrait I ever shot where I like set up a shoot and like I dragged out Home Depot lights and things like that. And it's just like, what was I thinking?
Oh my gosh. You should take one of those photos and like edit it now and like see if you can.
You should put it on a shirt.
Just do like before and after.
It's so bad.
Please don't put it on a shirt. Don't put it on a shirt.
Put it on a shirt. You're all going to love it and wear it.
Well,
so bad.
I mean, so to that point though, I mean, obviously over the last like 10, 11 years, you've done some really, really awesome stuff. What seems like could be some like once in a lifetime type of situations that you're shooting in. Is there anything that any shoot in particular or moment in particular that you can point to as being something you're the most proud of or like, most rewarding as a photographer, whether that's your client or just,
I think one of the most rewarding photos, when you get in the commercial photography world, fortunately and unfortunately, money plays a big role in that. Budgets are good usually, and you're usually pretty well compensated, and it becomes a fun part of the gig of being a photographer, like being well compensated for what you bring to the table. But the photo that I'm most proud of it was a free shoot. It was a portrait of a girl named Heather who at the time was going through her third or fourth relapse with leukemia. And she was a model and she had hit me up and was just saying, hey, I'd like to do a shoot with you. I've seen your work, whatever. Can we just, can we do a shoot? And I was like, yeah, what would you have in mind? She wanted to do like a pretty typical beauty shoot, and that's really not kind of like my wheelhouse of what I enjoy doing and what I think I'm good at. So I told her I'd get back in touch with her and we would, I would discuss it with my team that I work with and we'd come up with something. So we got together and we ended up coming up with basing that photo off of the Birth of Venus painting by Botticelli. And, we ended up shooting this in my studio. We brought in real doctors to be a part of it. And it was just a really cool experience. I'm actually going to pull it up here so we can see it. I don't know if that's easily seen or not, but that's an article about the shot. There we go. So this is the resulting shot. And I didn't really know the impact that I could have on people as a photographer until I took this photo. We took the shot, put it out on social media, and within, hours, it was already going viral. It became this really beautiful homage to what she was going through. Um, Lady Gaga ended up sharing it. Ellen ended up sharing it. It was reported on multiple websites. So it gave me a lot of cool publicity. But at the end of the day, it also put the spotlight a lot on her. And a lot of these organizations, these cancer charities, went out, reached out to her, helped her with her medical bills, and it ended up becoming just a really beautiful, positive experience for everyone involved. She passed away about 3 years ago, and when she passed away, this photo was at her funeral, and it's a photo that I look at all the time to this day, just to kind of keep myself inspired and keep me feeling strong in what I do, because she's such a strong individual in this photo. Uh, and it was just a really odd, it's not odd, but it was the first time where I took a photo that had an impact in a way that was not just a monetary gain. And I'm very proud of this shot. I think it's one of my probably top 5 best photos I've ever taken in the last decade. Um, and it's a photo that's lived on, that I still get emails about to this day from people who are also going through something similar, saying, thank you for this picture. It really encompasses how strong we are and how beautiful we feel on the inside, even though we may not look it, but we still feel that way. And it just this photo just became bigger than me, and it was a really cool, rewarding, shot to take.
That's really beautiful. I didn't know that story either.
Yeah, I didn't.
And I love that you pulled it full circle to it being about her. Like, yes, you are the talented person who took the photograph, but to it being really a dedication to what she's going through and making sure that it was perfect for what she needed. So that's really awesome.
I think that's an
Thanks for
important
sharing
thing
that.
to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I think what you just said is the essence of a portrait photographer. It's not about the guy who's holding the camera. It's our
Right.
job to present that person in front of our lens in the best way that we think, and to respect them in that same shot. And to me, this is an all-encompassing photo where it shows how beautiful and how strong she is at a time she might not feel that way. Uh,
Right.
the way that we lit her, the way that we set up this scene, this is actually in my studio. Uh, we wanted it to feel like a kind of a cold, old timey, damp, if you want to say it that way, hospital room where she's just flourishing out of it. And it's just, anytime you're taking a portrait, it really should not be about the photographer. You know, we have a capability to make beautiful things, but we also have a responsibility to the person that we're taking the picture of, to make sure that they're shown the best way that they can be.
Right, I 100% agree. I had the same conversation with some people in a storytelling conference talk yesterday about that exact thing that you just said, and making sure that our images are that we are telling the proper story for them and respecting them in a sense where they're going to see these photos. Obviously, they are a part of these photos, making sure that it's their legacy for the rest of their life. We're just the person behind the camera. So that's, oh man, will you print that for me and sign it, because you're really important.
Yes, it became a book cover. I know that.
Really?
Like someone bought it as a book cover, and I shot the money over to her when I got it.
Oh.
And before she passed, she did her bucket list. She went through everything. She did everything she had to do, and she was a really cool person. And I just hope that photo, helped her both, on the charity side of things and just mentally as well.
Yeah, man, I'm sure it did. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I've seen that photo of yours, but I didn't know the context at all, and that changes everything. Just knowing everything behind it.
It does.
Well, and that kind of segues into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is, I know in the last few years, you've gone through some stuff, and mainly in your accident, and so I only want you to expand to what you feel comfortable talking about. But I know photography has been a big thing to get you moving forward after your accident. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's almost a year to the day. April 22nd of last year, I was involved in a very serious motorcycle accident. I was sitting in traffic on a local highway on my motorcycle, and a car rear-ended me going, they don't really know the speed, somewhere between 40 and 50 miles an hour. I was thrown about 70 feet from my motorcycle, roughly 15 feet in the air, and broke most of my ribs, broke my collarbone, shattered my shoulder blade, broke these two fingers, broke my nose, bit through my lip, concussion, and a little bit of heart stoppage for a couple minutes. Um, it it's something that like I still deal with. I'm fully recovered, and I'm very lucky to be fully recovered. I probably shouldn't have walked away from that accident, and especially the way I did. Uh, I remember it. I remember being in the hospital, and it was my right arm. This is my shooting arm, and thinking like, oh my god, like if this is as bad as I think it is, I'm not gonna be able to shoot ever again. And when you get to this place mentally of you don't know it, how do I phrase it? Like when your entire world just kind of crumbles around you, what do? You're not prepared for that. No one's prepared for that. And I just remember like my mind was just going all over the place. Like, okay, well maybe I can consult for photographers, or maybe I can consult for clients, or maybe that. And it was everywhere. And at the time, I just could not seem to get my head in a place that was healthy, because this is one of the darkest times I've ever dealt with in my life, and I just couldn't get there in a way that I was like, this is going to be okay. My brain would not get there. I kept thinking, this is not going to be okay. I'm not going to recover from this. My life, I'm doomed, but after I had 3 surgeries, I had a bunch of internal bleeding, had a collapsed lung, all these different things. And I remember being in the hospital and thinking like, you know what, I got to go through this, and I got to come out of this, and I got to get back to normal as soon as I can. And photography was the thing. Like that was the thing that encouraged me to get better as quickly as I did. I did about 3 months of physical therapy after I got out of the hospital. I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks, and then about 3 months of physical therapy. And then about a month after that, I was doing shoots. I was back on a full production schedule.
Wow.
A month after that, I was back on a motorcycle. And I had really made the decision to get better because I wanted to get back behind my camera. Because at the time, there was no normal, there was no anything. I just needed to feel like things were back to where they were. And for me, photography was that thing. That was the only thing I had that I could hold on to that made me feel that I was back to where I was. That was the normal. It wasn't even the motorcycle. Like that was such a secondary thought in my brain. And this isn't even about what am I going to do for the rest of my life as a career. This is me worrying, what am I going to do now that I've lost the last decade that I've put into creating this beautiful work? I can't do that anymore. So I just had to get back on the horse. And like I said, I'm fully recovered. I have a lot more metal in me than I thought I would ever have. I refer to myself as the zombie robot since I've gone through this, which is kind of cool. I got some really neat scars now and a lot of numbness, but photography helped. I was editing some of the photos on my site in the hospital, and I was, all slinged up with one arm, just like trying to maneuver with a Wacom tablet and edit skin on retouches that I was doing. And I was trying to book work still when I was in the hospital. It was just, it's not a job as a photographer. It's your life. It's your lifestyle. It becomes who you are because it follows you home and it goes wherever you go. You're always looking at things differently because you're a photographer. And I was not ready to give that up yet. And like I said, I probably should have. I probably shouldn't have walked away from that accident. But since I did, I owed it to myself and to photography to really work that much harder to make sure I got back behind the camera.
That's awesome. It's incredible how much of a motivator it can be, and using it as your outlet to just be you, because the accident didn't define you. You are you. So using that as your outlet is just, that's epic.
Thank you. It's been quite the ordeal. I'll be celebrating in like, what is it, 2 weeks? April 22nd? Was that 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know what day it is. Day,
I don't know what
time.
day it is either.
Well, I know
It's April
I speak
9th.
for the Tamron family and, everyone else that, we're very happy that you are where you are now. So.
Thanks. Me too.
So, okay. So I feel like, awesome. Well, I feel like that was all wonderful and a bit heavy. Let's move to some lighter subject. Erica, if you want
Good
to.
idea.
I mean, yeah, let's jump into
I will say, people are in the comments are commending the recovery and the story, and so I mean, this is you got fans, Jonathan. You got fans.
I promise, guys, I'm a lot funnier than this. I'm not this depressing. I swear.
Yeah, but if we started to get into that funny, we'd start swearing, and it would just be. And I'm scared for that. So.
Do we need like a PG-13 rating somewhere in the corner, maybe? Possibly.
That's a great.
I'll put
You're
it
a genius.
You can use the F word once in a PG-13 movie. Isn't that the rule or something?
You get one.
One. You got one. Don't waste it.
Don't screw it up.
All right. So yeah, let's jump into kind of like the business side of things and talk about that aspect, because you clearly have, the talent and everything, but there is the business side of it, which can be daunting in a sense. But how do you find that you balance your time, regardless of, the situation that's going on right now, in normal world circumstances, or if you could talk about now as well, but how do you balance your time into finding clients, into, do you determine, okay, well, I can only do this many shoots a month or things like that? How do you separate that time?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, this is my 11th year full time. I think around my fourth or fifth year, I was doing like 15 to 20 shoots a month. It was absurd. And I was doing them for a lower rate. It was a quantity over quality situation at the time. Because I didn't really know how to price myself that well and how to market myself. And I realized like I'm just killing myself for nothing. Like I couldn't keep up with my edits. I didn't really enjoy the work that I was shooting. And I was just kind of getting myself into a rut. So I scaled everything way back and tried to hunt out, gigs that I thought I'd be good at, gigs that paid more, because that's important. And I kind of limited myself between 5 to 7 shoots a month going forward. And that's been, exponentially better for me, both financially and just mentally. The best way to go about finding these gigs, and I wish there was a secret sauce to this. It's honestly just pounding pavement in a sense of just emailing clients and emailing companies and ad agencies and magazines and just putting your work in front of them and putting your work in front of them in a very memorable way. Art directors, all these people get emails and mailers and postcards and portfolios. They get these all day long. I'll promise you 9 times out of 10, they're going to take one quick look at it and dump it. Being able to be memorable to those clients is what's important. Something that I've done in the past, and this is, I think, very unique to what I offer as a photographer, or as a creative. The way that I kind of market myself is as a cinematic portraiture or a cinematic portrait shooter, meaning I kind of talked about earlier, the environment's important, just as important as the subject. So if I want to send my work to a client that I really, really want to get, this is not like a typical magazine or a typical agency. Like if I want to work with someone that I know that I need to be memorable to, what I've done is, you guys remember the Viewmasters? Do you remember those? The little, like, you can look through them in the little disc, right?
Yeah.
So I've put 10 of my images on those discs, and I will send the entire Viewmaster out to a client with a bag of popcorn and a pair of 3D glasses, like they're going to the movies. And they can sit at their desk and tilt back and just go through my entire portfolio in like 2 seconds. And the good thing about doing it that way is they're not going to throw that in the trash. That's going to sit on their desk, just to sit on their desk. It's
brilliant.
It's just an interesting thing to have on your desk. Like it's just something interesting. So
have you had clients call you back and say that's the reason? Not to cut you off, but that's like okay,
no.
Cool.
They're even if I didn't get the job, or a gig from them, they're still going to email me back saying, or call me back saying, hey, that's really cool. Good idea. We're not going to use you, but that's really pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like it still opens up the communication just a little bit. And that's all you need. Once you get that first reply, whether it be a positive or negative, the conversation's open and they know who you are. And they're not going to forget that. So I've sent out, I think, 10 of them. There's a company that makes the discs for pretty inexpensive. Then I go on eBay and just find a ViewMaster for like $4 and send it out. It's just an interesting way of being, memorable. And that's kind of what we have to do nowadays because everyone has a website. Excuse me. Everyone's a quote unquote good photographer. Everyone's got a portfolio. What are you doing to make sure you can beat the next guy who has an iPhone who's just probably good with his iPhone? So just creating work that's good, that's a big part of it. But when you're delivering it to people, make sure that whole process is also just as memorable as the work itself. And the best way I've found clients is A, through word of mouth. B, I will pay people to help me email companies just to help me out because I don't want to sit there and email companies all day. I do work with a marketing agency out of Philadelphia called Wonderful Machine. They've been really cool in finding me work as well. But there's no secret to this work. There's no secret to finding clients. You kind of have to harass them a little bit, not harass, but you gotta keep knocking on that door. You just have to. A lot of the celebrity portrait work that I've done, and I've worked with some pretty big names. It's just been me blowing them up on Twitter. Like, hey man, I want to take your picture, and then I'll get my followers to all tweet that person until they block me, and then I'll start a new account and harass them from there too. And I'll make sure that they can see what I'm talking about. And they'll usually say yes. I haven't got a restraining order yet. But you just have to be available and you have to just keep pounding the pavement and just keep knocking on doors for this stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was going to kind of be my next question about the marketing side of things. How much time you're spending on each of those portions when it comes to not only reaching out to people, but then social media? Like, where does social media is obviously huge now. I mean, we wouldn't be able to interact right now if it wasn't for social media and technology and all of that. So how big of a role does social media play in your connections? How much time do you spend on that?
It's huge. It's huge. I'll be honest, I don't do a ton on Facebook anymore. I put all my efforts toward Instagram. It's a visual platform. So as a visual content creator, it kind of makes sense to do it that way. I would say, I don't know, it's like 20%, 30% of my business now. And it's beautiful. It's a free platform. And on Instagram versus Facebook or, I think Twitter's the same way, but you can reach a targeted area. As opposed on Facebook, you're kind of stuck with who your friends are. But on Instagram with hashtags like that, people can search and find your work. So for me, Instagram has been my best thing. Now, TikTok is like the big thing.
That's right. You got a TikTok.
TikTok's great.
Are you excited about that? You proud of that?
It's so bad.
TikTok, I can't. TikTok is the future. I will say that. I can't stand it right now, but I do have one. And just for reference, as far as how big social media platforms have gotten, I think I have about 15,000 followers on Instagram, which is, not great, but it's a pretty respectable number. Averages on photos is between 600 to 1,200, maybe 1,500 likes or something like that. TikTok, I posted a video and like 6 hours later it had 58,000 views. Like it's insane.
Wow.
The amount of traction people are getting on TikTok right now.
That's
so
unreal.
My advice to photographers, focus on Instagram. Facebook's probably third on the list right now, but TikTok seems to be the future as far as posting quick behind the scene clips and quick content if you're trying to get seen more. I work with a lot of magicians, oddly enough, and one of my magician clients, he and I were talking about this when I was in Vegas for WPPI. I was like, man, I don't know. I can't do this TikTok thing. He's like, yeah, I know. I was like, everyone on there is really young. He's like, yeah, but those young people are going to find you now and follow your career. And when they're old enough, then they're going to interact with you more. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And that's kind of the tree I'm barking up right now. But Instagram is still my predominant way of reaching social whatever with photos.
That's a great point. I didn't think of like the age group there
Yeah, I
and
didn't
how it
think of
will
that
like
either.
follow you throughout. That's a really good point.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So I have just kind of one more basic business thing to touch on, and then we can move back to photography a little bit. But you've already offered a ton of advice, obviously, but do you have any more pieces of advice in the business aspect of things for someone who is looking to break into photography as a newbie? I know you just mentioned social media and that being a great piece of advice. I didn't think of that. But is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head for
Yeah,
new photographers?
sure. Shoot what you know and shoot what you enjoy shooting. Um, I think I have, for the most part, everything that I've shot in my portfolio, I'm proud of, and it's something that I wanted to shoot as well. And doing personal projects is huge, 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 huge. I do a lot of those. If I'm not shooting for money or shooting for a client, I'm going to get together with my friends and create something that's also interesting. And that's honestly what leads me to my gigs is those personal project shoots. Clients are going to know when you're shooting work that you care about and that you put the effort into, and they're going to respect that, and they're going to want that same quality in the work that you provide to them. So being able to show that you have the drive and initiative to put together a team of people, whether it be models, hair, makeup, whatever, showing that you can put that together without a client pushing you to put it together is going to make you a much more attractive to the next person who wants to hire you for a gig, because they're going to know that you know how to do this stuff. They're going to know that you want to do this stuff, and they're going to know that you're going to put just as much effort into their work as you're putting into the personal stuff that you're shooting just for yourself anyways.
That's a great point. They're going to know you care about it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, Sarah, do you want to celebrate?
Right?
Needs like the wham, wham, wham. I need that thing.
Next time.
No,
Next
I
time.
would.
Air horn. The air horn.
Well, and speaking, not to go off track, but speaking of personal projects, you would consider your Halloween project a personal project, right? Ish?
Yes.
Yeah? Can you
Yes,
show them
I
the
do.
photo that you did in October? Because I was lucky enough to witness this. And I think,
yeah.
and not only do I think this is so cool, because whenever we got on site to this, you got there and you were like, man, this is going to be cool. This is not at all what I expected, but screw it. We'll make it work. It'll be fine. So I thought that was insanely just like inspiring, that there was no frustration with the setup. You just, worked with what you could. But also the fact that you had a client involved with this, even though then it's been a personal project you've been doing for years.
Sure. So yeah, and this came out awesome.
This is so dope.
I love this shot.
I
I
love
really
it.
do. Like I really love it. And like Sarah said, we got to the location. It was a cabin in the woods situation, and it just wasn't the cabin that I had envisioned in my mind. I think we all have the idea of what a cabin is, the log cabin and like that whole scene. This is more like a house on a porch, like if you want to call it that, So I shot this in Austin, Texas, with precision camera, and I got to teach a class how to do this type of shot. These type of photos are kind of like my bread and butter. It's a lot of lights, it's a lot of organization, it's a lot of working with the models and treating them more like actors than they are models in this situation, because you need to have them emote to the camera to really sell this whole image. This is also a part of one of my clients, which is a board game called Mixtape Massacre. That's a horror-themed board game, kind of based off the old 80s slasher films. In this photo, there's a guy in the background with the knife. His name is Legend, and that's what he looks like in the game as well. So this photo pulled double duty in the sense that I got to teach how to do this photo, and it was also for a client on the same level. So it showed my students what it takes to put together a full advertising shoot. That's also kind of something that you enjoy shooting. It's kind of hard to see, but I have the shirts that they're wearing made for the shot. This is Camp Tall Oaks, and that's the same shirts that they wear in the board game. We blooded them all up. We tried to match the outfits as best as we could to the game, and then I had the creators of the board game send down the costume for Legend down to the shot. There's a lot of lights in this photo. I'm trying to remember, Sarah, is it 4 or 5?
I
Do you
want to
remember?
say
I think
it
it's
was
5
5.
lights total.
I think it was
I think
5.
it was 5 total. Yeah, so we have a light boom. We have 2 lights boomed overhead. I remember now. 2 lights boomed overhead. 1 light coming from out of the door, hitting him in the shoulder here. No, I think it's 4. And then 1 light behind. No, it was 5 because you had a light above their head. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start that all over. I have 2 lights boomed directly overhead of the couple, and then 1 light boomed overhead of Legend. I have another light directly behind me on a lower level, shooting them in the face so we don't lose their face in the shadows. We put another light inside the door frame coming out to light the side of him, and then a light behind just to bring up that fog, which, as we all love and know, is the fog spread. It's really hard to power a fog machine on location. It takes so much power, and this is just a way easier situation. And it's a lot of light to manage. It's a lot to manage in a shoot. You know, I'm telling them to 3, 2, 1, action, fall, and try to crawl away, and it becomes a pretty intense scene because they're really trying to get away from this guy. But that's what's fun to me as a photographer. You know, it's creating this scene that you can kind of hear it, you can kind of see it, and in your brain, you know what happened before, you know what's going to happen next, and it's this scene that's kind of in between everything else that your brain already kind of put together.
Yeah, not to.
I've done a lot of these.
You mentioned intense, not to mention right behind you are like 10 students, just like trying to get in there.
10 people all the time.
Like
hoping
on
I
this
know what I'm
crowded
talking
little
about,
balcony.
Yeah, it's a tight little spot. We shot this.
It was fun.
Just 24-70, I think, or 15. No, I think it was 15 to 30. I think it was 15 to 30 because it was such a tight spot.
Yeah.
And then in post, you just kind of take care of the fisheye, whatever. Just a little bit of bulge to it because it's such a wide angle shot. You just kind of even out your lines. But this is pretty much straight out of camera. If you saw the raw, this is kind of what it looked like. And Sarah can attest to it. She saw the raws on set. This is pretty much it,
was really
when it comes
cool.
out of the camera.
Well, and it just goes to show how much, when you pay attention to lighting, how that can just do so much for you, which is pretty much your specialty. So
it's my thing. I don't know how to take a natural light photo. Fun fact: I can't go outside and take a picture unless I got 7,000 watts of lights with me. That's how bad I am at photography. Another Halloween shot. This is one of my favorites too. This is from 2 years ago. Did this whole kind of camping, you know, telling scary stories around the fire and whatever. Wanted to kind of feel like it was a little bit of Stranger Things mixed in with a little bit of Stand By Me, kind of a vintagey feel to the whole thing. That monster that you see behind the kids, that's a person in that costume. We had that thing made for us for this shoot specifically. It's a full, like 6'5" head to toe monster with one-off mask. All of it's one of a kind. Had a guy in Nashville make that for the shoot. And if you look closely, probably hard to see in this, but the comic book that they're reading has the same monster on it that's behind them. So in this shot, it's kind of like the kids' imaginations running away with them. You know, they hear something in the woods, and instantly your brain's going to go to what's probably the monster that we're reading about. So we just kind of brought that monster to life in the photo. The same thing, ton of lights going on here. We did not use fog spray for this. We used a fog machine for real. We shot this in my backyard, and we just ran like 50 feet or 100 feet of cord from the house to light up this whole thing. I think there's a total of 4 or 5 lights here. But the flashlights that you see, you know, beaming through the fog, that's real. We did Photoshop in the fire. It was really hard to get fire to work with all the lights going off. So what I did is I put a little speed light in that spot where the fire was, and we put a warming gel on it. So we know in post that warming light from the fire would be lighting them up. So we want to make sure we didn't lose that. So that's kind of like the key light in the shot is just that speed light that's tucked down, lighting their faces up with that warm color because we wanted that fire to have some type of role in the shot. I call it lighting with purpose. You want to think about your end game when you go into a shoot. I want to make sure that those tones from that fire was going to be lighting them up, because in real life it would be all kind of orangey too from the fire. So we don't want to lose that whole feel in the shot either.
It reminds me of Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, that's good too. I'll go with Goosebumps. All those things.
Yes.
All the kids' scary stuff. That's what
Love it.
I definitely get the Stranger Things vibe though, which kind of freaks
You know
me
what's
out.
funny? I didn't even see that show until I did this photo. And people were like, "Oh, you like Stranger Things?" I'm like,
What?
"Never seen it." And then I watched it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I totally ripped off the show without knowing it."
It was in your subconscious, maybe.
We'll go with that.
All right. So,
But I guess, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I have a few kind of rapid fire questions for you to wrap it up ish. I mean, you can talk about it as much as you want. But if you had to pick one lens, I know I've asked you this before, what's your go-to lens?
Can it be a tie?
Yes.
Okay. It's the 35 or the 45. I tend to shoot in that range the most because, again, a lot of this work is environmental portrait work, and it's important to show the area that your subjects are in. So 45, 35, those show just enough of the background to where the subject is still an important part of it, and it shows just enough of the location that they're in to where it doesn't overpower the subject. Shooting a portrait at 15 to 24 is very doable, like we did with the cabin shot, but you also have to make sure you're filling the frame with them. You know what I'm saying? If you were to shoot this, pulled back, they would be so tiny in this big area. So it doesn't really kind of work there. In this bowling shot that we have up here now, this is shot with the 45, and it shows just enough of the bowling alley to give you a sense of where they are, but we still have enough tightness of the lens to kind of keep our eyes focused on where the subject is in the center. So for me, those two focal lengths, super, super important. I'll occasionally jump on the 85 if something calls for it. Typically, magazine work is going to be in that 85 range. But for me, the 35, I mean, even between those two, probably the 45 is where I'm at. You can't beat that focal length. It's a tiny bit wider than the human eye, and it's a really sharp lens. But the 35, I don't know, Sarah. They're both really good.
I think I agree. 35 is my ride or die, so I understand.
Yeah, those are both really solid lenses. That 35-1.4, I know you guys have read about it. I know you've heard about it, and we've all don't shut up about it. That is a sharp, sharp lens. That is a beautiful lens. That's what I'm recording this on. This is with the 35-1.4 right now.
Oh, look at you.
That's awesome.
My dumb face looks real sharp. I know it does.
I can see every pore. No, I'm kidding.
Every pore. How big look at my giant head. It's all there.
Well, okay. So if you're in a photo shoot, what's the one thing you can't live without? And it doesn't have to be gear. It could be like, what's the one thing?
I mean, I need a lot of lights.
It's not fog?
It's not fog, yeah.
Oh, what's this?
Every photo shoot. No.
The one thing I can't live without.
Let's assume lights are a given. How about that?
Let's assume lights are there, right? I got my lights are there, no big deal. Holy crap! I've never answered that question before. The answer wasn't just. Because that's my dumb question. My dumb answer is like, I need 4 strobes, an octoband, a couple modified, it's like that stupid photographer answer. You really put me on the spot. What?
No, it can be anything from like coffee to.
Yeah.
I've never had coffee before.
What?
That's why we're friends. Yes. I don't like coffee.
I've never tasted coffee.
Fun fact.
Wow, I just got so quiet.
I just learned so much. That's the most interesting thing I'm taking away from this is that Jonathan has never had
Did everybody
coffee
just
before.
log off the Facebook Live
Yeah,
immediately?
we just lost
Like,
everybody. We lost everybody.
Sorry, guys.
Well, think, okay,
Okay,
like
so
a granola bar or like blotting powder for models. I know, I don't know, or one of those things. I don't know.
okay,
What's a tool?
there's a couple things. So I think this is a really weird thing to keep in your bag, but a little squirt bottle of half glycerin, half water is really something cool to have because when you spray it on someone, it will bead sweat and it won't evaporate in like 5 seconds.
Interesting.
Oh, no, you know what? I've actually heard that in the macro world too, because they'll put it
Yeah,
on
same thing.
flowers and plants and whatnot to,
Same thing.
Oh.
yeah.
That's a cool thing to have. Honestly, these fog sprays are really cool to keep in your bag. You can't travel. The TSA is not stoked when they see these come through because it says straight up flammable, real big letters.
Good to know.
Honestly, in like the cheesy answer to that question, I needed someone who's willing to want to create something. I don't do a lot of product work. I don't do stuff like that. I need a body in front of my camera, and if someone is just putting their trust in me, that's kind of what I need on a shoot. And I know that's kind of like a cheesy answer or whatever. And I know it's not like a Twix bar would be great to keep in my camera. But that's honestly what I need. If you take away the lights, take away everything else. If I have a camera and a lens, as long as I have someone, I can create something that's pretty interesting, I think.
That's an acceptable
That's awesome.
answer.
We'll take that answer, right, Sarah?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's
okay.
a crappy. I almost said a bad word. That's such a bad.
I mean, we only have 2 more questions left, so if it's gonna happen, we gotta get it out.
Yeah, we knew it was inevitable.
I was gonna say it's such a shitty answer. It's a shitty answer, but
Okay.
Glycerin and fog spray. That sucks.
There you go.
But whatever. Okay.
Dream photo shoot. Location. Subject. Oh gosh, you weren't ready for this one either.
I think about this. No, I know this answer right off the bat. I know this one.
Location, person,
And
client, what?
If anyone can make this happen, like, it would change my life. I have wanted to shoot Shaquille O'Neal having a tea party for like a decade with like a little girl. And like his big long legs all tucked into his chest because he's so tall in like this beautiful like pink princess room. I wanted to shoot that since I picked up a camera. I don't even like basketball.
Can we share this to Shaq's page?
Yes, I'm gonna tag him immediately.
Get Shaq involved. I don't watch basketball. Always wanted to. Also, my battery is getting a little low. FYI.
Last question.
Just telling you.
What's next?
All good.
What's next? After we get through the crazy, all this time, locked up, what is your next big thing? Or what are you working on?
I don't know. I honestly, I'm going to just keep creating content and keep creating work that I like to shoot and that I think's fun. And hopefully that leads to just more paid gigs. I have some clients that are just postponed right now. So once things get back to normal, I'll hit the ground running. But it's honestly, it's hard to think right now like that. And you just kind of have to take it day by day and just keep creating things that you enjoy creating that are important to you.
Very true. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us. And
thank you.
Yeah, this was awesome.
I enjoyed it.
So,
it's funny because I might just end, by the way, because I got a red battery flashing over here.
Okay.
No. Let's just keep talking until it ends, and that'll be like the Sopranos ending. It'll be like very epic. Mid-sentence cut straight off. I tried to buy an AC adapter, but everything on Amazon is sold out forever. Like you can't get anything right now.
Kind of like how I tried to buy a cam link so I could hook up my camera too. They're gone. Everything's gone. All these capture cards are gone. I screwed up.
Was there any questions that people asked that were like we wanted to answer before I exit out?
Let's see. I'm having trouble.
Sarah, am I able to see that too, or is that just on your side?
You'll see it on the post. Let me see, because I have like a presenter view on my end, but it's not loading very well. I'm having trouble.
Probably got
Sarah, am I? Man, Jonathan, you talked about I think we've known you for a little while
People
now.
are judging you for not
I'd never heard of
drinking coffee. So there's that. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys learn so much.
Just kidding. Not a lot of questions at this time.
Okay, cool.
Someone asked what
So make
subjects do you shoot the most, but I feel that they probably have picked up on that since seeing and listening.
I do a lot of fitness work. That's a thing. Like fitness portraits like this are kind of interesting and lit well and whatever.
Here's a question from Dale. He goes, I have 2 kit lenses for my Nikon, the regular lens and the telephoto lens. And they're the consumer grade lenses. So what lens does he add next?
45. Throw the 45 1.8 in your bag. That's a super versatile lens. I don't know what camera body it's going on, whether it's a crop or a full frame. Either way, it's a super sharp, versatile lens that you'll love. It has the VC on it, so hand holding it at slow shutter speeds is not a problem. Especially if you're going to do any type of video work, it's easy to hand hold that with the vibration compensation in the lens. I'd go 45, if not the 35 1.4. But if you're kind of just figuring things out, the 45 1.8 is probably a little bit more user friendly. Just, I don't know, I guess because it has VC on it, and that's really cool, kind of cool feature to have.
Totally. And to give the 45 a plug today, we actually released, the firmware update for it for Nikon Z. So now you can autofocus. Yeah, great timing because that happened today. So, because one thing too, I know we didn't get to bring this up, but you're adapting everything to Canon R, which is great.
EOS R, yeah, and the RP. Soon enough, the R5 and R6. The Canon mirrorless stuff is killing it. I did Sony for a couple years, or about a year and a half. Went back to Canon. The Tamron stuff adapts really well. I have had zero issues adapting all the lenses to the camera bodies, and it's been great.
Yeah, and the added stabilization is a huge benefit on the bodies that don't have it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, totally. And the R5, the new R5 that's coming out, will have in-body stabilization that will work with Tamron stabilization. So you're going to have 5-axis versus 3.
Very cool. Nice. That's going to be a beast of a camera. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
So, alrighty. Well, I think it's time we cut it off. We say goodbye. Thank you to everyone that joined in, and we'll have another one of these up next week. Details TBD. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
This was fun.
See you soon.
We didn't even high five.
Oh
yeah, right? It's this way.
Oh,
Bam. Are we doing this one?
I ended it
We're trying to do the side one?
Oh, well, no, because his screen is showing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. There we go.
Okay, now let's do it. Ready? 1.
We're all in different squares.
Jonathan, go that way.
But this way?
Like up corner, like that. Yeah, there you go. 1, 2, 3. No, the other way.
That way.
Like that.
This way.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
1, 2,
Okay.
3. Okay, that was good enough. That's on the recording that they'll send to TJ. So.
Perfect.
Hold on. All right, I'm turning the
Bye,
recording
guys.